Imagine rushing your pregnant wife into an emergency room, only for the nurse at the front desk to look you straight in the eyes and say, "We're not admitting her." Now imagine what would happen if her husband was one of the most powerful men in the city. Before I tell you what happened next, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the Kindness Table, where every story reminds us that kindness is the greatest power of all. It was a cold, rainy evening when Alina stumbled into the emergency room, her hands clutched around her swollen belly, her face pale and lips trembling. She was 8 months pregnant, and the contractions had started earlier than expected. Her breaths came in quick, shallow gasps as she leaned against the reception counter, whispering, "Please, help, my baby." Behind the counter sat a nurse in crisp white scrubs, tapping lazily on her keyboard. Without even looking up, she said flatly, "Do you have your insurance card?" Alina fumbled through her purse, pulling out her ID and insurance papers. But before she could hand them over, the nurse gave her a quick, assessing glance, her rain-soaked coat, her messy hair, her trembling hands, and shook her head. "I'm sorry, but we're full tonight. You'll have to try another hospital." Alina's knees buckled. "Full? I can't go anywhere else. Please, I'm in pain." The nurse's tone grew sharper. "Ma'am, rules are rules. Without proper verification and payment up front, we can't admit you. Next." Behind her, 2 other nurses whispered to each other, throwing her disapproving looks as if she were some kind of troublemaker. One of them muttered, "Probably just another one of those cases." Alina's heart pounded in panic. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about her baby, the little life kicking weakly inside her, the life she had promised to protect. She leaned harder against the counter, tears blurring her vision. "Please. I can't lose my baby." The nurse sighed impatiently. "Ma'am, you're holding up the line." In that moment, a wave of dizziness hit her. She reached for the counter to steady herself, but her hands slipped, and she crumpled to the floor, gasping for breath. The crowd in the waiting area watched, but no one moved. Some looked away, uncomfortable. Others glanced at the nurses, expecting them to act. Still, nothing. One of the nurses finally called out, "Security, we have a situation here." Security. Not a doctor. Not a stretcher. Security. Alina's mind raced, flashing through memories, the first time she felt the baby kick, the tiny socks she had folded in the nursery, the promise she had whispered to her unborn child, "I'll always fight for you." But now, lying on the cold tile floor, she felt powerless. Through the haze of pain, she managed to whisper, "Call, my husband." Her phone was still in her coat pocket. One of the security guards reluctantly took it, scrolling through the recent calls until he found a number labeled, Ian Redheart. He hesitated, then pressed it. When Ian answered, his voice was calm but firm. "Alina? What's wrong?" The guard spoke into the phone. Sir, your wife, she's here at City General. She's not doing well." A pause. Then, in a tone that sent chills through the guard's spine, "I'll be there in 10 minutes." The next 10 minutes felt like hours. The nurses went back to their paperwork, the receptionist resumed typing, and Alina lay on the floor, clutching her belly, each contraction stealing her breath. The sliding doors to the ER burst open exactly 10 minutes later. A tall man in a perfectly tailored black suit strode in, his polished shoes clicking sharply against the floor. His presence was magnetic, the kind that made people straighten in their chairs and avert their gaze. He knelt beside Alina, lifting her gently into his arms as if she weighed nothing. His voice softened. "I'm here now. You're safe." But when he turned his gaze toward the staff, the warmth vanished, replaced by an icy fury. Ian Arif. CEO of Arif Global Enterprises. A man whose name alone could open doors, or close them forever. He scanned the room, his voice cold and controlled. "Who refused to treat my wife?" The receptionist froze. Sir, it's just protocol. We didn't. Ian's voice cut through like a blade. Protocol. Your protocol could have killed my wife and child. He glanced toward a man in an expensive coat who had quietly followed him inside, his personal lawyer. Start taking names. The staff shifted uneasily, realizing too late that the woman they had dismissed was the wife of one of the most influential men in the city. But they had no idea what was coming next. The firing. Ian carried Alina past the reception desk, ignoring the nurse's stammered excuses. He kicked open the double doors to the ER, calling out for a doctor. Within seconds, a medical team rushed forward, their earlier indifference replaced with panicked urgency. Alina was placed on a gurney and wheeled into a private room. Ian stayed by her side, holding her hand as she breathed through the pain. His other hand gripped his phone, sending rapid-fire instructions to his assistant. Get the hospital board on the line. Tonight. And have HR send me the complete employment records for every ER staff member on duty. Alina squeezed his hand weakly. Ian, don't, just, focus on the baby. He kissed her forehead. I am. By making sure no one else suffers like you did. Minutes later, the doctor confirmed that Alina was in premature labor but stable. The baby's heartbeat was strong. Relief washed over her like a warm tide. But for Ian, relief was only half the battle. When the hospital director arrived, breathless, flustered, and apologetic, Ian didn't waste time. Your staff violated the most basic principle of medicine, to save lives. Instead, they acted like gatekeepers for the wealthy. They will not be working here tomorrow. The director stammered, Mr. Arif, please, I understand your anger, but this is extreme. Ian's voice was steel. What's extreme is a pregnant woman being left on the floor because someone decided she wasn't worth the effort. His lawyer handed the director a folder. Inside were termination notices for every nurse, receptionist, and supervisor involved in the refusal. Effective immediately. The news spread through the hospital like wildfire. Some employees stared in shock. Others quietly nodded, knowing deep down that what happened to Alina was wrong. Later that night, as the contractions subsided and the doctor assured them that both mother and child were safe, Ian sat beside Alina's bed. The rain outside had stopped, and a soft glow from the city lights bathed the room. Alina looked at him with teary eyes. You didn't have to do all that. He smiled faintly. I did. Because one day, our child will grow up knowing that we stood up for what was right. That kindness isn't just about helping when it's easy, it's about fighting when it's hard. Alina rested her head against his chest. I love you. He kissed the top of her head. I love you more. And I'll always protect you. The next morning, the city's headlines exploded. Billionaire CEO cleans house at City General after pregnant wife refused treatment. Some praised his actions. Others criticized his power. But one thing was certain, no one in that hospital would ever turn away a patient in need again. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that standing up for what's right can change lives, then hit that like button and subscribe to the Kindness Table. Because here, every story proves that kindness is the greatest wealth we can share.